Hey guys, it's Editing Giles here. I wanted to share with you our Taylor Swift episode where we dig into the faith parallels in her lyrics. This was originally recorded back in July, just before she re-released Speak Now, Taylor's version, and until this point has only been available to our Patreon patrons. But I thought it was time to share it with all of our listeners. If you'd like to hear more, including all of our bonus content, special episodes, extended interviews, etc., just go to www.patreon.com/The God in Film Podcast and sign up to our Bishop Waller-Bridge tier to hear more. And now, let's get on with the show. Hello and welcome to God in Film, the podcast where a Christian and an atheist dive into the best that cinema has to offer and see if we can find any parallels with the gospel or any other Bible stories. I'm writer and anti-hero, Giles Goff.
And I'm CBT therapist and nightmare dressed like a daydream, Kat Bullock.
And today, for this very special bonus episode, we're going to be looking at the works of one Taylor Alison Swift. Kat, what does Taylor Swift mean to you?
Taylor Swift is everything. It is Taylor Swift's world, Giles, and we are just living in it. We are so honoured to be living at the same time as Taylor Swift, and that's what it is. What does Taylor Swift mean to you, dude?
Oh, Taylor Swift is somebody I better not think too much about for any long period of time. That's what she is. I fail miserably on that point. But like, the only person whose words I have analysed with so much depth is Shakespeare, you know? And the fact that she doesn't talk that much about what her songs means there's so much room for interpretation.
Sure.
She's been in dialogue with her fans her whole time, you know?
Yeah. One day we need to get together and play Is It Shakespeare or Taylor Swift? Because that is a great game and a lot of people fail at it.
I'm pretty confident I'd nail that one way or another, you know?
Let's go. We'll do it one day.
Kat and I saw Taylor Swift in Hyde Park in 2015 on the 1989 World Tour, and that was pretty damn awesome. Without further ado, let's get into Kat's Facts.
Theme song. We'll work on it. So, fact number one. So, Taylor Alison Swift, born 13th of December 1989, was actually born in Reading, Pennsylvania, which a lot of people think that she's born in Nashville.
Born on and raised on a Christmas tree farm, isn't she?
You totally are right, and that's totally maybe one of my facts.
You've got to come correct when you come at me with the Taylor Swift knowledge. Like I say, you know, you got to work really hard to find me something that I've not heard of before, you know?
That's okay. Well, the thing is, I wanted to cater to everybody, but maybe one day we'll do like a facts where it's just about surprising you and we can do like a mastermind session. So Taylor Swift grew up on a Christmas tree farm. I don't know if you knew that, Giles.
Do you know what? When I heard the song Christmas Tree Farm, it's not great, that song, for me, you know? And the problem is, I listen to so much Taylor Swift. I have hundreds and hundreds of it. I know all the words to tons of songs. Not every single song, but tons of songs. So when you hear one that you think, oh, this is bad, part of me feels relief. It's like, I haven't completely drunk the Kool-Aid. Do you know what I mean? It's not like anything she does is wonderful. I still have some sense of taste and discernment, and I can still go with some of them like, I feel like you didn't quite nail it on this one. And that's okay, because like I say, even Shakespeare has a few duds in there, you know?
Even Shakespeare's a few like, plays.
Yeah. Like... Anyway, Taylor Swift. One genius at a time.
Yeah, one genius at a time. In 2022, Taylor Swift became a doctor after receiving her honorary doctorate in fine arts. Her speech contains lots of references, hinting of her past songs. She says, "Welcome to New York." She mentions 22. But actually, she teases her future album, Midnights, teasing songs such as Labyrinth and You're on Your Own, Kid.
She does that sometimes. She'll just sort of drop a phrase that's not quite a regular thing, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, 'tis the damn season. Right. Okay. Yeah.
Long story short, you're always doing this. My final fact, and one that I don't know if you will know, but I hope that you don't, because it will and we can talk about it a bit more.
Bring it.
Okay, so Taylor has obviously been very well known for hiding Easter eggs, which essentially hint to the future, and she's been doing this as far as 2 years in advance. And actually, it's been named that sometimes it might be even longer in advance because of COVID.
Right,
now,
okay.
there is a sense. So it started off as secret messages to fans in very, very earlier albums, and now has kind of evolved into messages as deep as her nail polish to give us messages about what might be coming next. It is speculated that her next album is an orange theme, and it's called Karma, and this has been speculated since the video The Man. And it's also second speculated because of the Eras tour and the visuals from this. The Man, for anybody who doesn't know, is a music video from 3 albums ago. And fans are sure that Karma is either a completely unreleased album that's been lost to COVID, or it's definitely the name of her next upcoming one. But the orange theme is much more stronger as a colour for her next era. And the reason for that is because in the Eras tour, little bit of a spoiler, the visuals behind show the Lover House burning down and this big lift of an orange door. And in the finale song, she has a dancer of each colour, but she's in orange.
That's interesting. See, the way I understood it, Karma was an entire album that she'd written and then just kind of went...
That's one theory, yes. Yeah. So that's one theory of that it's a completely lost album. And then the next theory is actually it's her next album. Because if you see the Man music video, when she's the man...
Yeah, she's peeing against the wall.
She's peeing against the wall.
All the album names.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. No, that's awesome.
There you go. That's Cat Facts for you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I've been trying to think this through. Like, if you have heard of Taylor Swift, but you're not obsessive like we are, how would you try to explain why she's so great, why she's worth our time to people?
I think you have to completely introduce Taylor Swift as a caveat of Shake It Off is not her best work. So if you are going on, I don't like Taylor Swift because I think Shake It Off and Me are rubbish, then you are not giving her the time of day and a daylight. I think you would need to showcase All Too Well. I think you would need to showcase the songs that become relatable to the individual and the mastery of songwriting. So if you're basing your opinion on Taylor Swift because of her album or her single releases, then just try it out. Don't base your opinion on Taylor Swift based on Shake It Off, I Knew You Were Trouble, and Me. You know, go into her album.
It's fascinating you said that because I often feel like her lead singles from her albums tend to be some of her weakest. Shake It Off and
I Knew You Were Trouble.
And I Knew You Were Trouble. Just... it's like, this is...
They're fine. They're fine. They're great bops. They're radio bops. That's what they are.
Yeah.
They're radio hit bops.
Yeah.
Like Shake It Off's great, but every time I hear that like snare drum in the disco, I do like a little bit because I'm, you request Taylor Swift at the DJ and then you walk away going, oh, I gotta play Shake It Off. Actually, I probably shouldn't have asked him that.
Yeah, but I mean, like, you don't want to ask the DJ to play Taylor Swift and then he plays the All Too Well 10-minute version, are you? You know,
no, I do. Like, that's
everybody's
exactly what
like,
I want, actually, Giles.
hey, I'm feeling quite sad and I'm going to go have a think about my life. My wife Claire is not really one for clubbing. The only time I've gotten her out to go to a club anywhere was for a club night called Swiftageddon.
Yeah.
They played all Taylor Swift songs back to back and that was it and it was wonderful.
That setup, the fact that Taylor has allowed that to happen because they would have had to have asked her or her team because they're making money off of just playing their songs is incredible. The fact they've taken over nightclubs to be able to do that. I mean, what a job. What a job. And why did we not think of
that? Because we like to be in bed by 10. So
it's true. We have children who need to be in bed by 8. That's why.
Anyway, without further ado, let's get into finding their faith in the film.
Finding the faith in the film.
Nice. Nicely done.
Thanks.
So I really wanted to do this episode on Taylor Swift. Firstly, because I haven't heard any Christian commentators say many nice things about her, you know? A lot of them seem to create these intense straw man arguments and then spend way too long taking that apart. And I wanted to analyze her work from the perspective of someone who is a fan and a Christian. Those two things aren't antithetical in any way. And secondly, I absolutely freaking adore talking about Taylor Swift. And to be honest, Kat, you're the only person who I think could stand listening to me talk about this for so long. You know,
all the time, and any day of the week, any hour of the week, whether it's 3 a.m. or 6 p.m. Charles, I'm here for you, babe. I'm here for you.
So we're going to jump around a little bit on this one, but we're going to start with an actual film, which I guess kind of makes sense for a podcast with film in the title. So I thought we'd start with Miss Americana, which was the documentary that was released on Netflix in 2020. And I think you've probably got an idea where I'm going to go with this one. There's one point in the film where she's talking about endorsing two Democratic congressional candidates. It's like a 2018 clip. This is post Trump being elected, and she's wondering. She basically really wants to make a political statement in favor of these two Democrats. And some of her management team are worrying about the concert figures being halved. Her father, Scott Swift, rightly puts forward some real concerns that this might ignite some right-wing stalkers to come after her or make an attempt on her life. And everybody's genuinely concerned about her safety. And yet she's able to put aside any concerns for her career or her safety when she talks about US Senator Marsha Blackburn, who has voted for some fairly horrendous things. She's sort of voted against domestic violence acts and rest of it. I sent you the advert.
Yes.
That she did. Do you see what?
I actually hadn't seen that until you sent it to me. Obviously, they don't show the actual advert in the film, but they do see her like watching that, and then. Yeah, it's pretty tough stuff to watch. One
of those people who's just exhausting, you know, like, and she does all these things behind this facade of Tennessee Christian values. Now, what's fascinating is Taylor, when she says, "I can't stand seeing that woman's advert on the TV and talking about Tennessee Christian values. I live in Tennessee. I'm a Christian. That's not what we stand for." Now, part of me just wants to end this right there. That is a phenomenal statement. Drop. And it makes you feel proud as a Christian and a Taylor Swift fan. It's like, we're Christians, this is not what we do, you know? Now, Jesus didn't say anything about LGBTQ couples, all right?
Yeah.
Jesus didn't say anything about who should use which toilets.
Yeah.
But Jesus was very, very, very clear about standing up for the rights of oppressed people. I'll give you a quick one. Matthew 25:35-40 says, "For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me." Then the righteous will say to him, "Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger, invite you in, or needing clothes and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and go to visit you?" And the king will reply, "Truly, I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of my brothers and sisters, you did for me." Anything you do for somebody who is in need, that counts as something you did for Jesus. You know, it is abundantly clear, you know? So now it's true that Jesus doesn't explicitly name different people groups, but he keeps it deliberately wide, because if someone is in need of help, you help them. That is a Christ-like value, you know?
Yeah.
And whilst you could definitely find biblical scripture that can support your homophobia, you cannot find anything Christ-like that will support it. You know?
Yeah.
I'm going to get off my soapbox now, because otherwise
it was a beautiful soapbox, though. It was great. And you're right there with her.
What I wanted to do is get into what I really want to talk about, because Taylor identifies as a Christian in that clip, and I want to examine that within her body of work that is the rest of her discography, and really unpick that apart and be like, what exactly does that mean? And for me to do that, we've got to go like pretty much all the way back to the start. Okay?
Yes.
Okay. So for this, I wanted to go all the way back to the Taylor Swift Holiday Collection, which was, I kid you not, which is an EP. It was first released as like a Target exclusive in October 2007. So it consists of 6 tracks.
I think I know which lyric you're going to bring up as well.
Yeah, you probably do. So there's 4 covers: Last Christmas, Santa Baby, Silent Night, White Christmas, which are all covers, and 2 original tracks: Christmas Is When You Were Mine and Christmas Must Be Something More.
Yeah.
Now, I think Christmas Is When You Were Mine is pretty great. You know, it is.
It's
so sweet. It's adorable, but unfortunately, the one I want to talk about is Christmas Must Be Something More. So, like I say, I want to talk about Christmas Must Be Something More. Swift is the only one to have a writing credit on this particular track. And before I get into this, I want to put in some caveats. I understand that this was an album that was rushed out just in time for Christmas. In fact, even the artwork is taken from something else. They couldn't be bothered to do a proper photo shoot for it, so they just stole some photos from teardrops on my guitar and shoved it out there. So I get that when we're working to a really tight deadline that has to fit certain criteria, we're not going to produce our best work. I've been there. We all have. And secondly, you have to factor in that she was only 18 when she's writing this track. And she'd released some bangers at this point, but I still think we could count this as part of a juvenilia, if you will. The only people who are writing some of their best work at 18 are Mary Shelley and George Michael, as best as I can tell, you know? With all that said, let me tell you why this bugs the hell out of me. In the chorus, it says, "You'd see that today holds something special, something holy, not superficial. So here's to the birthday boy who saved our lives." So.
Okay. So different soapbox is about to intrude now.
You know, this is said with love. With our obvious theological hats on. Jesus didn't save our lives. You know, there are plenty of cases where following Jesus actually costs you your life, you know? Jesus saved our souls, which is a whole different thing. Secondly, referring to him as the birthday boy just kind of makes me want to throw up in my mouth a little bit.
Yeah.
It's a term that really lacks the reverence and the respect he's due. So, like, I remember when I was at uni, and I remember hearing a talk where somebody said, Jesus is your friend, but he's not your mate. You know, he loves you, he's close to you, he cares about you, but he's not someone you can treat like anybody else. Jesus is literally the universe packing itself into a human body because he wants to have a conversation with humanity. Like, the mind-bendingness of that is just too difficult to get your head around. So calling them the birthday boy just feels a bit weird. And I think this speaks to something we're going to unpack a bit more, is that at this point, in her career, Taylor's living in Nashville, Tennessee, which is part of the Bible Belt. You've heard that term before, right?
Yeah, and I've visited North Carolina, which is also part of the Bible Belt.
Yeah. So in these places, I'm pretty sure Christianity has got to be presented as hegemonic, you know? It's so ingrained into the culture that people see themselves as Christians without necessarily thinking about what that means. And that is so weird to me, because I became a Christian in the 90s, like pre-internet, and I was bullied mercilessly for it, you know, like kids in year 9 just absolutely horrible to me.
Savages. Children are savages.
Can confirm. So the idea of it being everywhere seems appealing until you realise that Christianity was never really meant to be mainstream like that. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Christianity was never meant to be something that everybody could say they were without giving a lot of thought to what it was. So from this point, we can see what I think is cultural Christianity. And that's, I think, what Taylor probably ascribes to at this point. Okay? And lastly, a song about how Christmas has gotten so commercial these days, being released on a rushed out album that is a shameless cash grab, seems to be an irony that absolutely nobody else noticed, you know?
I love it.
Well, that's it. Like, I know I've given young Taylor Swift a hard time, but even when she was younger than this, she sang and recorded a track called "Didn't They?" You've heard that one, haven't you?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, that was one of those ones that kind of it's never been released on a studio album, but I think it got leaked onto the internet in about 2013, and it's a reflection on like 9/11 and Columbine from a Christian perspective, and it's basically just screaming out at God, saying, "Didn't they call you? Didn't they need you bad enough? Was there some reason I'm not aware of?" And it's brilliant. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like the Book of Job couldn't do better. You know, like the Psalms of David couldn't nail that quite as well. It's brilliant. She wrote this, we think, as like a preteen, which is blows my mind, you know.
Smart kid.
Yeah. So Swift has never commented on the track publicly, which is a shame because it has shades of the level of rage and outbreak that we'll see in a much later works. So that's early Swift taken care of.
Yeah.
And there's something else I wanted to point out. Being a celebrity and being a Christian is really, really freaking difficult.
Yeah.
It's a high wire act for which, for people in the music industry, they can and often do fall off. Either you set yourself up to be following certain set of ideals, and like the moment you fall short of them, the media will absolutely categorically nail you for it. Yeah, 100%. Like, here's a good example. Like, do you remember in the late 90s? I mean, I don't know how much you remember the late 90s, but Britney Spears, right?
Yeah.
Britney Spears says she's not going to have sex before marriage, and as a result, every single interview, every single article asks about this and talks about this. They're always referencing it.
Yeah.
The mainstream media took a really unhealthy obsession in a teenage girl's sex life.
And same with the Jonas Brothers as well, when they had the rings, and they were asked about it all the time. And as soon as they had a girlfriend, or as soon as they were filmed without the ring, it was like, "Oh, have you broken your little truce that you had? Have you, you know?" It's very quick to look at the detail and call them out on that. And
see, I was sort of pulled into the sort of purity culture of the time, and we didn't have rings, but we did have like a little credit card, like a True Love Waits credit card. So you could have, it was lovely. You kept it as a reminder. It was in your wallet, so nobody else saw it, but you got to see it.
Nobody else saw it, but you got to see it. Yeah. Maybe they should have done that, and maybe Britney should have done that.
Yeah. So the flip side to it is, if you say you're a Christian and you do things that are consistent with Christian values, people think you're preaching at them. You know, so Bono from U2 is pretty established as being a Christian. And over the years, he's done a lot of charity work or work as a goodwill ambassador for various causes. And people kind of hate him for it, you know? U2 get treated like the butt of the joke or as being holier than thou.
Yeah.
And they're effectively put in an impossible position. So it doesn't surprise me that Taylor Swift does not want to put her religious beliefs front and center, because you get secular media criticizing you for being too Christian. You get Christian evangelicals criticize you for not being Christian enough. It is a lose-lose, you know? Yeah.
And also as well, like, Scott Swift is essentially saying all those things to her, but then it becomes a political argument, that becomes a societal argument, and it becomes, well, when you're of that amount of celebrity, like you said, when it comes to Britney, it becomes an unhealthy topic to scrutinize somebody about.
Yeah, 100%. And it's like, we want our pop stars to be pop stars. Do you know what I mean? We want our rock stars to be, we want them to kick ass and be cool as hell. And it's really hard to do that when you're like, okay, just before we get started, everyone, let's have a quick pray. You know, it doesn't quite...
doesn't quite send the right
gel.
Vibes for the Green Day concert, you know?
Yeah. So when we listen to Swift today, it sounds like someone who was, and this is total supposition. We've never spent any time on the podcast talking about one specific person's faith in this much detail before, and we probably won't get a chance to do it again. But when we listen to Swift today, it sounds like someone who has deconstructed their faith and come out of it not really knowing what they believe. Do you know what I mean?
100%. And I think that she agrees with that. She's said at secret sessions that she sees herself more as an atheist. She's seen, but then we see the Miss Americana, where she's saying, I'm a Christian, I'm from Tennessee. So she absolutely is, playing with that idea, I guess exploring what that means to her, what different things mean to her, what her values are around that.
I totally missed the atheist thing in the secret sessions.
I think somebody asked her because someone noted that she actually doesn't make any religious reference in the album 1989. She completely steers against it. So then she was asked and she said that she is exploring and she can't say for definite, but she would probably be more atheist. But I don't know. The thing is, I think there's that journey, isn't there, of like you were saying, that celebrities fall very short of being boxed into whatever they say at one particular time in one particular timeline. And so she's likely stepped away from that because there is a sense of her exploring as she's grown up what that means to her. She's been in the public eye since she was 15. And so she's going to learn different things, know different things, do different things. And it seems like you said, her earlier catalogue certainly attunes her to Christianity. And then later on, we get into that deconstructed. Is she seeing religion as something else? Is she valuing different things? Is there a part of her that's very religious in her values of life and very differently in the way that she writes music, or the way that she sees love or things like that?
Yeah. As a Christian who is also thinks of themselves as an artist in some way, shape or form, I have this problem as well. Like, how much of myself can I actually put out there? And how much do I have to worry, like, what are people at church going to think about me? Like, how much am I going to get to talk about, like, sex, or how much, how angry somebody makes me? And you have to, like, you're constantly trying to have to self-censor yourself, and it's exhausting sometimes, you know? So I can understand why you would want to keep those two things really separate. Do you know what? Where sort of modern Swift reminds me of at the moment. We said all the way back in our Indiana Jones episode that Spielberg and Lucas seem to like raid the toy box of religious iconography without ever really focusing on anything in any particular depth. And I feel like Swift has done something similar. You can hear in her songs, they are absolutely peppered with religious phrases or meaning without ever really getting into in depth. Can you think of any examples?
Yes, I've got quite a few. I can think of even a video that literally shows it in our face and then never goes into much depth, which is the blank space video where she bites the apple. And it's a very, very peppery Adam and Eve. I'm about to go into this evil. I'm the nightmare. I'm the evil sinner. But also the lyrics, magic, madness, heaven, sin. Yeah. But for me, I think the big one quite recently is in Soon You'll Get Better. Which
do you know what? I was hoping you'd talk about this. I've got this on my list I want to go for. So go on. What are you going to say?
A sad, sad song. So I think this pertains to the idea that people turn to religion in crisis. Or turn to God in crisis. And
do you want to just explain to people what it's about?
Yes. So Soon You'll Get Better is a song that was written to her mum because her mum currently is battling brain cancer. Mum has a brain tumour. It's very low key. They haven't really detailed much about it, but she's had it for a couple of years now. So I think she's getting the right. She's Taylor Swift. Of course, her mum's getting the right treatment. Her name is Andrea. It's about a song which kind of suggests and hopes that, she'll get better, because what else is she supposed to do? Who is she supposed to talk to? Her mum's her best friend.
Soon you'll get better because you have to. Yeah.
You have to get better because there's no other option for me. And the bridge of that song is so cutting. And I've only listened to it once. I've had my own personal indemnities with brain tumours and brain cancer, and that song came out at possibly the wrong time for me, and I've never listened to it since. It absolutely destroyed me. But that bridge is wonderful of like, who am I supposed to talk to? She said something along the lines of,
and I hate to make this all about me,
but who am I supposed
to talk to? What am I supposed to do if there's no you?
She then talks about how she's turned to faith, and she says, holy orange bottles, each night I pray to you. Desperate people find faith, so now I pray to Jesus too. And obviously those holy orange bottles being
at least at this point she's referring to him by name rather than calling him the birthday boy, so we've got some
we've made some evolutionary steps, so we've made some growing has happened in the last 15 years. I think Reputation album is very much peppered Don't Blame Me is very heavy in religious imagery when we went to the tour. So the imagery was like stained glass windows. She was against all these stained glass windows. It was kind of like she was in the center. It was made to look like it was the backing was very, very similar to like a gospel performance. But there's also false god as well. So, your hips, like my hips are the altar, your lips are the altar, even if it's a false god. Reputation is very much peppered.
I always think of Reputation as her drinking album. So much alcohol reference in that. I'm spilling wine in the bathtub. You kiss my face and we're both drunk.
Yeah, she talks about yes, it is definitely her drinking album.
Like, this kind of backs up my feeling of like, she's talking about magic, madness, heaven, sin. We've talked about angels. We've got sort of devils. It's very Sunday school theology.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's stuff that is front and center in the public consciousness. She's not talking about anything even a little bit sort of obscure. She's not talking about Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego or Daniel in the lion's den. It's all stuff that if I'd learned nothing new about God and Jesus from my Catholic education, you would already know it. And it's the false God thing. There's a line. What? Something. It became my religion. I hope I never. Cornelia Street.
It's Cornelia. Yeah, I was gonna say.
Secret New Beginnings. Hang on, let me get this.
New Beginnings.
Thank you. Sorry, misheard that one.
That became my religion.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's really interesting because it doesn't seem unreasonable to say that Taylor Swift puts a lot of focus on romantic love. And for her, I think she's looking for that kind of salvation in the romantic love with another human being. And I think you'll always struggle with that. But that would be, if I had to guess, that's where I think she's probably at.
Yeah, kind of say that you're 100% right there. And I think I'd say you're 100% right on her deconstructing the idea of her own religion and playing with different ways.
Another one I wanted to look at was the line, it's from the 3 a.m. edition of the Midnights and it's bigger than the whole sky.
Yeah.
And if you were trying to explain what bigger than the whole sky is about to somebody, where would you start?
If you would start generally, you would say it's about an ending. If you're a Swiftie, it potentially references a miscarriage.
That's how I read it. And obviously there are different ways of reading it, and we are not speculating as to what's going on in her private life there, because she's capable of writing in character, she's capable of writing in role. She could have had a conversation with a friend. We saw with Ronan, she wrote one of the most heartbreaking songs in this world or any other based on reading a magazine article. I listened to that song once and I was like,
never again.
Well, I listened to it whilst it was like nap time for Riley. I literally had my 1-year-old asleep on my chest at the time, and I was like, okay, right.
That's like the Candle in the Wind Elton John version of that song. Like,
It's like, nope, not having it. But if we assume that she's referencing a miscarriage here, there's one line, did some bird flap its wings over Asia? Did some force take you because I didn't pray? Every single thing to come has turned into ashes because it's all over now. It's not meant to be. So I'll say words I don't believe. So if I take through some things there, did some bird flap its wings over in Asia? So that's related to like chaos theory and the idea of different things having a knock-on effect on things, which can lead into massive consequences down the line. And then she says, did some force take you because I didn't pray? Now it's interesting. That cultural Christianity that's still latent in there stops her from saying God. Some force. She can't bring us up, but because
she's completely
because I didn't pray. Now, that is not a theological statement. That is somebody who is in pain and who is looking for a reason for why something terrible has happened to them. And
Yeah.
something we talked about in the last series is that if somebody is coming to you saying, why did God let this happen? They're not actually asking for a theological breakdown of something. What they really need is some comfort and somebody to tell them, I don't know why this happened. I'm so sorry. All I can tell you is that God loves you. Would you like a hug and possibly a biscuit? You know, it's not...
Possibly a biscuit if we have them in. Like,
Possibly,
if we don't,
like,
it's just the hug.
I could just go to the shop.
I might have to go to the spa. It might be a rich
like,
tea. Hobnob.
Bless. Whenever Claire's feeling sad or a bit weepy or whatever, we have this thing where she'll stand in the living room, hold one end of a blanket, and I'll sort of spin her around until she's a little sushi roll. And then sit her on the sofa, bring her snacks and drinks, and just leave her to watch whatever she wants to watch on
she's
TV.
just but that's just like the unexploded bomb right now in the corner. Just we need to be careful with her.
Yeah, she's feeling very delicate. We should leave her alone. It's all fine. Bigger Than the Horse Guy is another song that I can't listen to too many times.
No, definitely not. And also pertains to the idea that she, as well, I think you're right on the money with this idea that she is losing her sense as religion or has lost it along the way and is trying to, because she has admitted there, because I didn't pray. So there's a sense of, well, I used to, and did you take this from me because I've stopped?
But again, look at the juxtaposition. Did some force take you because I didn't pray comes right after did some bird flap its wings over in Asia. So it's like, did God do this or was this chaos theory? This isn't somebody developing a coherent theological argument. This is somebody flailing.
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
It underscores this thing for me of somebody who's deconstructed their faith, who doesn't know, who genuinely doesn't know what I always feel like I don't really mind where you come down on the question of is there a God or isn't there, but I do expect you to spend time thinking about it, and I do expect you to come up with a coherent thing, because it matters, you know, whichever way you look at it definitely matters. So we've got these two Taylors, haven't we? We've got Taylor
in time, essentially.
Yeah, we've got country Taylor, the very sweet Christianity as part of your cultural identity, and then we've got this sort of modern, I'll do whatever genre I want, Taylor, who seems to be at sea, seems to be at a loss in a lot of these things, and when the big things happen, when the really scary things happen, doesn't know quite what to do with herself. And that's one of the things I've always found for my Christianity, for my relationship with Jesus. I've always felt of it like a safety net. I've had bad things happen to me in life, but Jesus has been like that safety net that only lets you fall so far. You're like, the ground is here, and you're like, you know?
Yeah.
So what I'm interested in is there an inflection point? Is there a point we can look at and go, here's where it changed, and here's where it was? And my theory is an old one and a new one, because I think we got some insight into it in Would've, Should've, Could've, which is one of the 3 a.m. tracks on Midnight's, her latest new album. Kat, if you had to explain to somebody what Would've, Should've, Could've is, what would you say?
Would've, Should've, Could've is a song about how a very short time relationship has been filled with regret and has maimed her in some way. And it has been a sense of she has spent a long, long time, longer than the relationship itself, healing and trying to put together her feelings, her upset about that. And if she would have known, she'd have never have done it in the first place. But she still enjoyed the relationship. It was still meaningful to her despite the pain. So there's that conflict of this was her, because she says it was heaven. The
pain was heaven.
But I regret you all the time. So it's that forbidden fruit. He is forbidden fruit. That's what he is. It was.
I see where you're coming from with that line. I'm not sure if I would have come to the same conclusion about enjoying the relationship. I think a relationship can be something that it doesn't work. It's not working for you, but you don't know how to get out, and it's not. So we're not on the tipping point of like an abusive relationship, but we're not flipping far off,
I think you're right. I don't think she necessarily enjoyed the relationship, but it was more about I think she enjoyed what it could have been.
Yeah.
Not what it was.
So for some context, John Mayer was quite a big star over in the States. He never really had quite the same crossover over here in the same way, but one of them approached the other over Twitter, and they ended up in a relationship when she was 19 and he was 32. That's a red flag,
That's some high-key grooming right there. Demi Lovato would have something to say about that.
It's not illegal, but it's creepy as hell. The power imbalance is
What's the thing that Philip
great.
Schofield just recently said? It's not illegal. It's just not.
Very unwise.
That's it. Unwise, but not illegal.
Now, if you look at this here, this song has probably more biblical imagery thrown into it than any other Taylor Swift track. And If I Was a Child didn't matter. If you got to wash your hands. So that's a reference to Pontius Pilate washing his hands of Jesus' execution. He famously washes his hands because he wants to say, I've got nothing to do with this.
Yeah.
And then she says, all I used to do was pray. Would have, could have, should have, if you never looked my way. I would have stayed on my knees, and I damn sure never would have danced with the devil. So I think the idea of that is you're on your knees praying, and God's honest truth that was pain was heaven, and there's so much of it in there. And it looks to me like, have you ever been in a relationship that was so bad it made you doubt your belief in God? Because
she's almost saying that, isn't she? Of like, I would have stayed on my knees. She's saying that whatever happened to that relationship shifted her perspective in some sense, because if that hadn't have happened, she would still be, quote unquote, on her knees praying, whatever it might be. So I think you've nailed it there, mate. I think we've nailed it.
Yeah. Like, the last thing you want a woman to say about you, or anybody for that matter, is I regret you all the time. Like, if you're one of Taylor Swift's exes, there is a spectrum of songs that you want written about you.
Ooh, yeah.
On the sort of good end is the Back to December style sort of thing.
Oh, yeah.
And then heading down to the sort of the bad end is the I forgot that you existed. And then past the bad end in the sort of the basement. In the basement is Dear John. Inside basement of Dear John, there is a trapdoor. You drop down below that and you find would've, could've, should've. Whatever this guy did to this poor girl, she has spent her adult life thinking about it. And it has knocked her faith in God and her faith in who she was, So...
Yes.
Dude.
And it's really interesting as well, because something as recent as last night. So I was going to mention what it could have should at the beginning, but I just didn't know. I thought sooner that would be good because it was more recent. But something she mentioned last night was, I'm not releasing Speak Now so you can go and defend me on the internet about something that happened 5 billion years ago. Miss Taylor Alison Swift, I don't think we get to say that when in the last year you absolutely savaged this man in 3.5 minutes with a new song that you've definitely written in the last 2 years. So because she has said, she's admitted that all the songs that have been written on Midnights are about the last 10 years, but she's written them recently. They all pepper into her life, or they were ideas that she had at the time, or they were songs where when she's up late at night at midnight.
It's a concept album, isn't it?
100%.
In the same way that Speak Now is a concept album where it's letters to different people. This is like people that kept me up at night.
Yes.
So the point I wanted to end with on the Find of the Faith in the film is that I need it to be very clear. I need people to understand exactly what I say when I say that being a Christian and being a good person is not synonymous. It is not. If I say somebody is not a Christian, it is not a judgment call as to their character. It is me saying, without trying to be gatekeepery, that I'm not quite sure that the depth of your relationship with God is as deep as it could be. You can be a good person and be a Christian, be an atheist, be a Jew, be a Muslim, be anything and nothing. The two things are not connected. They are. There is not nearly as much overlap as I'd like there to be, you know? So if I say that I don't think Taylor Swift is a Christian, I'm not saying she's a bad person. I'm saying that it hasn't been made real to her yet. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I can't wait to see where she goes with it next.
So I hope she never stops, but you know.
Yeah, 100%. Hey guys, it's Editing Giles here. Just to say that for all intents and purposes, this is the end of the podcast. What follows is utterly self-indulgent and probably not of much interest to anyone but die-hard Swifties. You can just stop now and just go about your day in peace. But if you do choose to keep listening and you find our relentless fangirling a bit tiresome, well, that's on you. So that wraps up our Finding the Faith in the film, and we are going to be thoroughly self-indulgent at this point, and me and Kat are going to talk about our top 10 list of Taylor Swift songs. Okay. I might cut this out, I might not.
What are we doing? Are we going like one each?
We'll do like one each at a time as we go, and we'll just talk about them as they come up. Okay. So do you want to start with your number 10?
I do, but I also want to talk to you first and foremost about the experience of doing this as a Swiftie. Because, like you said, you haven't completely drank the Kool-Aid, but there is a sense here that there is not a top 10.
Yeah.
Really. I culled one of the songs I culled from my top 10 was Would Have, Could Have, Should Have. I put it in and I was like,
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
It's tough stuff. So how was it for you making this list?
I took the process of whatever comes into my head is the right answer, because you could sort of weigh up the relative merits of them, and you could drive yourself insane. And I've spent a good chunk of my day sort of going through like, okay, well, is this song going to bother my top 10? Is it? Nope, that's definitely not. And there's loads that I've left out now that I'm thinking that I'm left. So number 10 I went for was Clean.
Oh my gosh, I've forgotten Clean, and I love Clean. Okay.
You and I saw Clean live. Do you remember? Her and her back in the... They rise up into the air on the
Clean
stage.
Is one of my favourite songs, and I might have to call one quickly.
Okay, no, you can't.
No,
keep it
okay. So my number 10, although there's in no particular order apart from probably the top 2, is The One. It might get cold for Clean, to be fair.
Okay, all right, yeah.
I think as well, when you listen to music, context matters when a song is your favourite song. This song came out weeks after a very, very, very difficult relationship breakdown. And I had bless her soul, the album release came out at midnight or 5 a.m. our time. 10 a.m. re-texted me and she said, "Are you okay? Because I've just listened to the first album, like the first track of the first album, and I thought of you." And I was like, for your friend to message you about a Taylor Swift, when she's not a Taylor Swift fan, she doesn't love Taylor Swift.
Never flipping messaged me about any Taylor Swift tracks.
You have to take that up with her, I'm afraid. But that's the first time that someone's gone, "I thought of you during that song because you've just been through." So I think that's more the context, but I think it's such a beautiful... Wouldn't it have been fun if you were the one?
See... When I heard Soon You'll Get Better, I thought of you, and I made a point of not messaging you to tell you about it, because I would have been like, "Hey, you know who else has dealt with cancer and that problem?" Yeah, I thought you maybe needed a break from that.
Song, thought of you. Yeah, I did like cuss out Taylor Swift in my mind as well. I was like, "Do you know me? Are we this like? Are we like?"
Okay, so what was your number 9?
My number 9 is My Tears Ricochet. I can go anywhere, just not home. That lyric is master genius. And the whole imagery concept of the fact that someone can be your best friend and then instantaneously be the person who puts you in your own feet, like who is the reason that you've died in some sense, but they're there at the wake.
See, I always thought of that as the song about like Scott Borchetta, I think the head of Big Machine, because she talks about stolen lullabies and all this sort of stuff. And I think because I heard that interpretation so early on, I never really got to hear it to think of it any other way.
She explains it in the long porn sessions that it's about someone being the person who's your best friend, but can also be the person who absolutely destroys you, and then somehow turns up at your wake like they belong there.
Yeah.
listen to it again, knowing that,
Yeah,
and it might change some things.
I can think of some people that would apply to.
Yeah. Classic.
Anyway,
what was your number 9?
My number 9 was All You Had to Do Was Stay, from 1987.
Lovely song.
I cannot think of a thing to recommend it other than that bit in the bridge where, I think it's the bridge, where she kind of screams, "You were all I wanted." You know, she's holds on to each word. You were all I wanted.
Yeah.
If you need to just scream something,
that song's got you.
at 60 miles an hour at 10 o'clock at night, that Taylor's got you. You know, she's got your back on that one, you know?
She has got your back. Oh, look how happy we are talking about our favourite Taylor Swift this movie. It's great. The smiles on our faces are real. My number 8 was Cruel Summer.
Yeah. Solid track.
Bop.
Yeah. I don't want to keep secrets just to keep you.
Yeah.
Love it.
That was number 8. Yeah, so what's your number 8?
My number 8 is Last Kiss, and it's I think it's from the Fearless album, and
No, Speak Now.
Is it? Damn it. Fuck.
Yeah.
They all kind of merge into one.
They do. No, but Speak Now is Last Kiss is Speak Now.
The reason I like it is the line, I'll watch your life in pictures like I used to watch you sleep.
Devastating.
It's the most millennial line in a love song, because when you break up with somebody, you are going to scroll through their Facebook and their Instagram.
That's so true. Yeah.
You are going to look at those pictures. You go, oh damn it, I accidentally clicked like, I've got to unclick that before
Yeah.
And
that is so true.
And I can relate to that feeling so much of like, I'm shut out of this person's life now.
That is a great song, to be honest. That is a great song. Sorely missed off of my top 10 that should be there. It does deserve a space. My number 7 is Getaway Car.
Really?
Do you know what? A lot of people say that, and it pains me, Giles. It gives me the upsets.
Yeah, it's fine. It's a solid Bonnie and Clyde song, and okay, all right.
Yeah.
For me, I think I'm going to win on this one, because for number 7, I had Style.
Fair enough. Yeah.
If you're one of Taylor Swift's exes, this is the song that you want written about you.
Do you think? Yeah. I think if you want it, you want... Yeah, because it's a very ego, like, you are amazing. Good for Harry Styles.
We never go out of style. There's that line, see, I've heard that you've been out and about with some other girls. You said what you said is true, but I can't stop thinking about you and she should stop there and go, that is such a flipping line. But she goes, yeah, I've been there too a few times, everybody's ego comes out of that intact,
That's so good. So true. Yeah. Also number 6. My number 6 is kind of a curveball, which I don't know if anyone would expect being in the top 10.
I've gone for Sparks Fly, because that was the
great song.
That was the song I would.
You've got some classics. So I think I prefer your top 10 to my top 10 right now. I think that was the one
I listened to on hard rotation, and it's just, oh man, loved it. Go on, what's your number 6?
Wonderland.
Do you know what?
I love Wonderland.
I was so embarrassed because I thought I was a big Taylor Swift fan until I hung out with you, and I was like, oh, because she played when we went to see her in Hyde Park. She opened with Wonderland, and or New Romantics, and I didn't know either of them because the deluxe.
So New Romantics, I had to cull from this list because I love New Romantics as well.
Yeah, the deluxe sort of thing was bits of the album I didn't find out about until my love for Taylor Swift never gets to be part of a conversation, if that makes sense. As a man who is older, you kind of, well, I don't get flipping embarrassed by anything, but people aren't tripping over themselves to come and talk to you about it,
Yeah, except for our WhatsApp chat, which trips over itself.
Except for our WhatsApp chat. Yeah, 100%. So, number 5, the track 5, which one have you gone for?
I've gone for You Belong With Me.
Yeah.
Classic. I've dressed up as it as well. When I went to Swiftie, I dressed up as pajamas, and me and Ishi were there drawing little triangles, looking at the pictures, and it was such a good idea because I was in pajamas. I went to a nightclub in my pajamas. Yeah. Everybody was like, you look sick. And what I did was I carried pens with me, and the friends that I met in the bathroom or on the side, I was like, sign my shirt, because Taylor's got people's names all over the shirt. It was amazing, and it's such a good night. But yeah, no, You Belong With Me has always been one of those that just like you, my kind of process was like sticking down songs for me that felt like I just know off the top of my head, and You Belong With Me is always up there.
100%. Okay. My number 5 is Cornelia Street. Okay.
I pulled that and I was like, oh, I love Cornelia Street.
That was obviously, that's one that's about Joe Alwyn and meeting at some bar, and they're in a taxi and she says, I rent a place on Cornelia Street. But the whole hook of it is, I hope I never lose you. I hope it never ends. I'll never walk Cornelia Street again. So Joe Alwyn was like the longest relationship in her life of 6 years. And I was a bit heartbroken when the two of them broken up. I was like, no, I
was a bit in disbelief, and then she,
and what I found interesting with that is that she's still more or less at the beginning of a relationship there, and yet she's already anticipating the end. She's in fear of the end. I hope I never lose you.
Amazing.
Being married, you get that as well, you know? I really hope I never lose you. But I always assume that with me and Claire, it'll be death that takes us first, you know, before anything else. And obviously the other part of the reason I like it is that it reminds me of you, because when you went to New York, you went to Cornelia Street
in the rain. In the rain, I got, and my boyfriend did the common mistake of not taking, you know, like as a boyfriend, as a husband, you're supposed to be like, no, he was like, tick, tick, click. He was like, we're done, come on, because there were so many people like, damn it, like someone else was waiting for me, and I was like, are you a Taylor Swift fan? And they were like, but it was in the pouring rain, and you were the first person that saw that other than us.
Anyway, number 4, what did you have?
Number 4 was mine.
Mine, yeah.
Love mine. And I remember that okay. Cornelia Street's a great one, but I love, like, mine was the first song I think that for me was the song I could not, when I first started loving Taylor Swift, because I found her at Love Story. It kind of like skipped out, got to Mine, and Mine was like, I was hard on Mine. I was like constantly playing it all the time.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah. What about you? What's your 4?
'Tis the Damn Season.
Nice. Okay.
Obviously, it's from Evermore. She's writing from the perspective of a woman who is going to become a famous actress. This is before she's become a famous actress, and she's gone back to her hometown for a school reunion, and she hooks up with her boyfriend, her high school boyfriend, for the weekend. Like, that is some in-depth storytelling, you know. Anything was like, okay, before you understand this, before you enjoy this song, you need to read this pamphlet. You know, it's the
honestly, they're like, when she did the little desk interview, and they said, what are you going to do when you're like, now that you're happy, are you going to still be able to write songs? Because all of her songs are about her, apart from Folklore and Evermore, who they are like splatters of stories for other people. So the girl, you know, she wasn't going to be a singer-songwriter. She'd been an author, 1000%.
Well, that's still to come. She's already been filmed, you know, short film director. She's working on it on a film. The books will come in time, and I don't know. For me, that song is that sense of like loss and wishing you could get something back, even if it's just for the weekend. I love that.
Yeah, good song.
What was your number 3?
Number 3 is out there, but I feel like this is disgustingly underrated, and it's high on my top 10, which is why it's number 3, and I'm still waiting. So sometimes I imagine this, Giles, because you are a filmmaker, sometimes I imagine making film with you and being in the actor and you filming it. And I've got this all planned out, by the way, for this particular song, and it's Right Where You Left Me.
Oh, wow. So that's one of the later ones.
Yeah, but sitting at that restaurant, having a dust perspective.
And friends get married. Yeah. And she sort of brings a bit of the twang back, doesn't she, for that
she
song,
does, she's got a little bit of country twang in it. But that song.
Where You Left. Yeah, that was one of the bonus tracks for Evermore, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
Yeah, because it was paired with...
And she's got the other perspective. It was paired with Time to Go, but I much prefer Right Where You Left Me.
Oh, see,
So Right Where You Left Me is the perspective of her not being able to let go of the relationship. Time to Go is from the same relationship, but saying to herself, we left the restaurant, we're fine. It's time to
That's
go now.
interesting. Yeah, It's Time to Go is the one that always hit harder for me out of the two. Yeah, no, that's a fantastic track. I think that was your number three, wasn't it?
Yes. What was your number
Yeah.
three?
My number three was Cardigan, from Folklore.
Really?
Yeah. So Folklore dropped a few days, maybe even less than a week after Riley was born. Okay.
Oh, I
And
remember you telling me this.
and I obviously whenever I hear whenever a new Taylor Swift album tracks, you're like, okay, all right, well, I've got to carve some time out of my day now and listen to this. They like hold all my calls, and of course I'm doing this whilst swinging a Moses basket around the garden trying to get a newborn to sleep, and it became part of Riley's sleep playlist. It became the first song on Riley's sleep playlist. So if Riley fell asleep during Cardigan, then I was doing really well. If I had to keep going through until I was like a few tracks in and be like Maps by the Yeah Yeah Yeahs, then it had taken a while. You experience these songs autobiographically, don't you? You experience them. They almost separate from their lyrics and their individual meaning. And when it ends with that line, "You'll come back to me," that's a really interesting one when you're holding a baby in your arms, because somebody said the process of being a parent is just watching your child need you less and less, and they just get further and further away from you. And I think when I sang along to that line, it became almost like a little bit of a prayer. It was like, "You'll come back to me. I pray that wherever you are, whatever happens, I want you to come back to me,"
Yeah.
So
I love that. I love the song. I think it's the lyrical mastery in that song doesn't actually get as much credit as it is. Leaving like a father, running like water.
Flipping heck, yeah. And hearing that as I've just become a father, part of me wants to be like, "Hey,
how dare you?"
No, that's
right.
No, that's actually incredibly fair.
Okay,
anyway,
top two,
the biggies.
Top two, the biggies. So I think I'm going to go down the aisle to this song.
Okay.
As an instrumental. That's my dream. And that would be Enchanted.
Do you know what? Enchanted so nearly made my list.
Oh gosh, I didn't make the list. It's fine. I've missed a couple of mine as well. But I just love it.
It so nearly made my list because it sort of summed up a lot of the night I met Claire, that I just met her at this wedding, and it's like, please don't be in love with somebody else. Please don't have someone waiting on you. My number two was Lover. The eponymous track from the album, and it's a ridiculous song. We could leave the Christmas lights up till January. Well, Taylor, everybody leaves the Christmas lights up till January. You don't.
That's the beauty of it, though. It's supposed to be mundane. Like that's what she says. Because someone queried her on it. It was like, "Doesn't everybody?" And she was like, "That's the point." And apparently, she did have the lyric, "We can leave the Christmas lights up until April," and she was like, "It makes more sense that you're more in love when everything is mundane."
Yeah, she said like, "Well, we could paint that wall that color." It's like it's when the two of you are together and you're in your own domestic space and you get to set the rules, you get to create the culture and all that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
We've always tried to cultivate a feeling that when you're at our house, you don't have to put on any airs and graces. You can just be at our house and you can just be you. And that's what this reminds me of. Actually, the main thing it reminds me of is, again, Riley was born on the 18th of July. Our wedding anniversary is the 22nd of July, and Lover had become such a big track for me and Claire. It had kind of become our song, which was a shame because we already had a song that was Heroes by David Bowie, and like Heroes now had to like squidge up and make space for Lover. And I will always remember our wedding anniversary in Withenshaw maternity ward because Riley didn't breathe properly when he was born, so they had to keep him in for like 5 nights. So there's me and Claire, and you have no real privacy. You get a curtain, but everyone can hear everything. And there's me and Claire slow dancing to Lover, like 4 days after Riley's been born, and it was that I will remember the rest of my life,
Oh.
Now,
I'm going to go downstairs and be to Miles and be like, if you don't slow dance with me and the buff is not good, I'm refunding you.
now let's go onto the biggie.
We know it's the same.
Should we do this one at the same time? Well, I'll count us
Let's
in.
go.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All too well.
All too well. 10-minute version, Taylor's version.
Do you know what? I spent so much flipping time working. Like, should I go with the original?
Are you going with the 3-minute version? Are you going with the original?
I'm making a choice to not choose. I'm going to say
Fine.
all too well,
fair. Okay,
and whichever way you want to interpret that, I am like.
Fair enough.
That is like a freaking the 10-minute version is like a gift to Swift scholars everywhere, because to contextualize this for Taylor Swift fans, the 10-minute version of All Too Well is like finding another folio of Hamlet. You know, it's like it's like unlocking keys. When I heard that song, I couldn't listen to The Moment I Knew in the same way ever again. You know,
it changes so much, doesn't it?
Yeah, the lyrics. You kept me like a secret, but I kept you like an oath. The woman can do something with wordplay that there's nothing.
Yeah. And I'm just wondering, did our love maim you too? Like,
Yeah.
And it's got so many different paces. It tells a complete story.
All Too Well is like 2 or 3 songs having a fight with each other for dominance, you know.
And that's exactly how she wrote it, wasn't it? You know, she wrote this in one. She couldn't remember the lyrics. Her mum had actually filmed it and never showed her. And then she spent months trying to put together the 3-minute All Too Well version because she had so much to say. You can see that in her Vogue interview that she had talking about that.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay. That wraps up this incredibly self-indulgent but incredibly enjoyable bonus episode of God in Film. Kat, have you had a good time?
I've had the best time. I love talking about Taylor Swift, and I love talking about Taylor Swift with you. So it's been fabulous. Thank you for having me. Thank you for letting me be your Taylor Swift consultant today on your show.
You are so welcome. So patrons, if you've been listening, thank you so much. We love it, and we will see you soon. Bye. Bye. God in Film is hosted and created by Giles Goff. That's me. Mixing and editing by Giles. Our logo was designed by
Julie Walsh.
And our theme tune was composed by
Rick Lee.
Waffle editing by
Natalie Miniker.
God in Film is a Dask production. Please rate and review. Unless it's a 1-star, in which case, you need to calm down. I know all too well what you think of this show of mine. And just because there's bad blood between us, that doesn't give you the right to put a blank space where a glowing review should be. Can I ask you a question? What do you get out of being this treacherous? You're not sorry for your attitude, but I wish you would change. For most people, sparks fly when they hear this show. They're enchanted by it. So, you're on your own, kid. You always have been.